Ladies and gentlemen, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, a podcast about wrestling talk, where we talk about wrestling and talk wrestling. How you doing, everyone? I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. This is Thursday evening. It is the 17th of October, 2019. The world of wrestling is just as wild as it was last week. It feels like it's just getting crazier. And boy, oh boy, am I glad that I have this Tribune to come out to and discuss these haps with all of you and give you my thoughts. But there is actually a discussion that happens. I don't just talk nonsense into the gaping maw of oblivion. I'm not down with that stuff. No, I record the Mr. Warren Hayes Show live every Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. It's a live stream. You can see me. You can actually see me, and on top of that, you can chat with me because I do have a fantastic, live, interactive, friendly, cool, hip hip hooray chat. Here, every Thursday, I have a great bunch of people who come out and to chat wrestling, and I know there's a lot of podcasts that do wrestling chats, that do the live chat stream. The live stream with the chat is what I'm trying to say. I'll get my words together. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of chats that do that, but the chats are, well, they're a little weird. Dare I say, a little hostile, but not here. No, sirree, Bob. Not when we have people like Tim, who's with us. 1001 OF clips as well. Richard Storm is here. Robert Larry Benoit as well. We got Shane Haas who's here as well. Caleb Smith. Nick Wolf just popped in. Anthony Davis. Look, it's just going nuts right now. It's going wild for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show right now. Live. If you've never had the chance to see it live, you should try to schedule at least once on a Thursday evening before you go out or after you return from some early weekend shopping. Just head on to YouTube and set a reminder on the live stream and just join us. You'll see it's a good time. And if you're watching this on your own time, that's fantastic as well. Either or. If you like this, if you already like this, it could be. Why don't you give the video a thumbs up here on YouTube? That helps out a lot. Maybe you're not watching. Maybe you're listening. Maybe you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application because indeed, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is available on all podcast platforms. So you should be able to find it by just writing in Mr. Warren Hayes. And if it's not, you know what you do? You head on over to Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes. And you tweet out to me and you say, Warren, I cannot find your podcast because I don't have a podcast. But then your podcast, I can't find it, and I know you have one. So what's up with that? And then I take a look into things, and then I scream at the appropriate people to get it done. It's really, really simple. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to yell at someone. Win-win. You get I get to scream at someone. You get the Mr. Warren Hayes on your application. I mean, how could anything be any better than that? So there you go. So that's what we're doing here tonight. And then just so you know, just so we're clear, once I'm done here with this stream, I'm heading on over. I'm starting another stream, an exclusive stream for my Patreon supporters, because I do have a Patreon at patreon.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. God damn, I'm hot with my branding, don't you think? I do an exclusive live stream immediately, or at least a few minutes after this podcast. I go get refreshed, splash some water on my face, put a little deodorant on, get another glass of water, that kind of stuff. And then I sit down and I do another stream exclusively for the Patreons. And tonight I'm going to be coming to the defense of Marco Stunt. A lot of people out there who are crapping all over the good ship Marco. And I will ship that. I will set that ship straight. And I will set that ship straight and save it from the shit. Save the ship from the shit is what I'm going to do. So, and that's available for our Power Pal tiers over on patreon.com. And you can show your support for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show just by dropping a $2 Patreon subscription for everything that I do. These streams here, the podcast, the weekly stream, the prediction shows, the surprise streams, everything that I do out into the wild. If you want to show your support, it'd be really, really appreciated. And it helps out. It helps out a great deal. Not only that, but you can also leave me a tip if you prefer at tinyurl/tip Warren. That's also something you can do. So there you go. And you can also watch me on my other stuff. I do stuff over at Fightful. I do a SmackDown post show, which I will not be doing this week because I'm going to be in an aeroplane flying to the United States of America. I'm heading to the Midwest. I'm going to take a week away from Canada. Don't worry, folks. I voted already, in case you're wondering. I voted last weekend. My vote for my boy Jagmeet is in. It's good. So I'm moving. So I won't be joining Sean there, but I am there on Wednesday nights. I will be there next week as well. Wednesday nights for the Wednesday Night War podcast, where Sean, Alex Pulowski, and myself go over the happenings during Monday night. Not Monday night, Wednesday night. So there's still a lot of stuff. And belltobells.com, still the best place to get your women's wrestling coverage. Belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLEES. Well, make sure you go check that out. So that's a cool time. It's a cool time. Everything is a cool time. It's always a cool time when you're at the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, and it's also a cool time when it's time to talk about the WWE inspection. Yes, sir, it is time for the WWE inspection. Now, if you've been following what I've been discussing on Twitter, then you know that tonight we are going to be starting off with talking about the draft, and it's very, very hard to not talk about WWE this week without talking about the draft. And before I do, hey, busy, wonderful chat again tonight. Carlos just jumped in. The whole gang's here. Lots of friends of the show. Makes me happy. Warms my heart. I'm glad to be. Kristen's here as well. Is my chat okay? Oh, I hadn't scrolled down all the way to the bottom. There we go. See, I don't know how computer work. Do you know how computer work? I don't. Okay. Jason PS3, Mr. Frets. How's everyone doing? Jeez Louise. So we're going to talk about the draft. That's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about on the WWE inspection. And am I going to spoil it? I'm going to spoil it right now. Cool beans? Hot trash? Nah. So we're going to go right down the middle with some warm soda, because honestly, I think the greatest disappointment that came out of what I experienced with the WWE draft this year is disappointment. It was so ordinary, and it seems that no matter how hard WWE tries, they cannot help but make simple situations as complex and confusing as possible. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's my preamble. Now it's time to argue this. I have paper notes for tonight. Can you believe that? That's how prepared I am this evening, or lack thereof. You don't know what my process is. How are you guys supposed to know? Ooh, almost spilled my water. Oh boy. Thank God I ain't driving the plane tomorrow. Okay, so first of all, for the first thing that I just have to get off my chest is why was the number one pick being contested by wrestlers, both on SmackDown and Raw? What was the point of it? Actually, hang on. I understand the point of it. What was in for the wrestlers? What was in for Seth? What was in for Roman on Friday? What was in for Becky? What was in for Charlotte on Monday? There was no reason for them to get involved in this. If they had at least added a wee bit of a stake for those wrestlers, just a little something, it would have been much more interesting. Let's say you don't put your champions. Let's say you put 2 top contenders. Instead of putting Seth and Roman, why don't you put like Daniel Bryan and Roman? Okay, and I'm just throwing this out there to fight to get the number 1 draft pick for their brand. What if the winner became number 1 contender, got a title shot at the next pay-per-view or next week on the show, on the first post-draft show? Why didn't they set something up like that to at least give those wrestlers a little something to go after? Because boy, oh boy, like for me, I don't know why I wouldn't have done it. I was like, well, what's in it for me? Why am I wrestling to get to allow some executives the chance to pick first? It didn't jive with me. That was stupid. But what was even more stupid is when the draft started. I don't know if you guys realized this. Earlier in the day, WWE had released the pools, right? They had, as you recall, there were pools of wrestlers available for draft on each show. There was a pool of wrestlers for SmackDown. There was a pool for Raw. And it was Jeremy Lambert on Twitter from Fightful. He, after the first round, the first 5 choices where they picked Becky Lynch, the OC, Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, Roman Reigns, the OC, Bray Wyatt, and Drew McIntyre. Jeremy pointed out, hey, you know what? Right now, it's going down exactly in the order of the list that WWE supplied us with. What if they are just giving away the result? What if they spoiled it earlier today? And they did. They did the entire. I mean, they tried to switch things up, but obviously they were like, the people in the backstage realized, oh no, we actually gave out the order in which everyone is supposed to be picked. We got to switch this around. Look. That was an extremely WW thing to do. That was very, very silly. But they had promised that this was going to be spearheaded by USA Network and Fox executives. It wouldn't be just WWE authority figures. So I was kind of expecting actual executives to come out and announce the picks and have the wrestlers come out and shake their hand, take a picture. But no, it was very expedited, and we had bad actors in scenes and pre-taped scenes in the back. I didn't care for it much. I thought for all the pomp that they put, or the hype, I should say. There wasn't much pomp to it, but all the hype that they put into making the draft very closer to a sports draft, bringing the essence of it back, I thought it was very, very, very lacking and extremely boring. I didn't think it was fun television. Taylor Bird, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. This is so basically, all right. I'm breaking things down, and I'm looking at the Friday night results, and we had 20 wrestlers total, and we had 13 of them stay on SmackDown or stay on their respective brands. Becky Lynch was drafted to Raw. She was already there. Roman Reigns was drafted to SmackDown. He was already there. The OC to Raw. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, he switched, but Drew McIntyre stayed on Raw. Randy Orton and Sasha Banks switched places, but Ricochet stayed on Raw. Braun Strowman to SmackDown. If you're wondering where the A show is these days. Bobby Lashley stayed on Raw. Alexa Bliss stayed on Raw. Of course, then there was the whole thing, right, where Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross got picked separately. So the USA Network, bunch of morons, ended up using 2 slots instead of picking them as a tag team. What a bunch of tools. Let's just call it for what it is. But this was probably part. At this point, everyone on Twitter was raving about the fact that the order had been leaked, that WWE had kayfabed itself basically. So this was them probably just gut reaction. Alexa Bliss and so on and so forth. Anyway, so there was 13 people who stayed. I'm not going to go through the entire list. 13 people who stayed on their brand. 7 went elsewhere on Friday. As it pertains to Monday, there were 16 people who stayed on their respective brands out of 30. So that's a little more than half. There were 9 changes. 9 brand changes. There's 3 that confused me, that I wasn't sure which way went, who on what brand were they in the first place. I think Brock Lesnar was on Raw. I think he was officially on Raw, right? So that'd make 10 changes then. But the Kabuki Warriors weren't. They've been going back and forth. I think officially they were on SmackDown, but we've seen them on Raw a couple of times before ending up tag champions. And technically, I think the women's tag champions can go wherever they want. I'm not even sure they're limited to a brand per se. Then we had what was the other one? Oh, Shorty Gable. Yes, those are words that came out of my mouth. Shorty Gable, wasn't he? He was on Raw, right? This is all very confusing. See, this is what I'm a casualty of the wild card rule. And then we had new faces. The only moment that we had new faces was on Friday when Humberto Carrillo got, on Monday, I should say, on Raw, when Humberto Carrillo got drafted to Raw, as well as Akira Tozawa. Those are the only new faces that popped up. So overall, this was a very, very tepid draft, And then on top of that, then there's the people that weren't drafted, which included, for the men, Cesaro, Luke Harper, Apollo Crews, Mojo Rawley, No Way Jose, and Luke Harper. As far as the women go, Dana Brooke, the Iconics, Sarah Logan, Fire and Desire were all undrafted. That they're considered free agents now. Now, does that mean that the free agents get to move from brand to brand? Because when John Cena said he's a free agent, that's what his thing is. He moved from brand to brand. So basically, they're all a bunch of John Cenas, aren't they? And as for the tag teams, AOP and Hawkins and Ryder were not drafted. And I don't know why no one drafted AOP. Although it was announced today that AOP, after some tough negotiations, were drafted to Raw. And then there was you remember this? The blockbuster trade? That was exciting. I like the idea of having a blockbuster trade because it's a draft, because you want it to come across as a draft. So you want the sports aspect to be wiggled into this. So you're like, okay, what is this big trade? Well, Raw is trading Nikki Cross to SmackDown. Oh, who is Raw getting in return? Future considerations. You guys watch WWE, and gals, you watch WWE as well. I watch WWE as well. We will never speak of these future considerations ever again. It's so stupid. They're already screwing up their own draft. We're not even a full week in. And they're already doing stupid moves like booking Seth Rollins versus The Fiend at Crown Jewel. Cross-brand. Well, the Universal title is the Raw brand. It's the Raw brand's title. I think this ending is already telegraphed. It means that Bray Wyatt is going to get screwed out again. It's so stupid. And then on top of that, what's really interesting here is the people that weren't included in any of the pools. There's a bunch of people who were unlisted. I'm not going to talk about Cain Velasquez, John Cena, Ronda Rousey, or The Undertaker. I think they're in a class by themselves. But the Usos weren't there. Naomi, the Hardy Boys, Sheamus, Lars Sullivan, Lana, Mike Kanellis, and Maria. Well, I guess we know a little why Mike wasn't added. Nia Jax, Mickie James, Ruby Riott, Alicia Fox, The Ascension, and the Colognes. Just not listed in any of the pools. We learned today today or yesterday that Alicia Fox has been moved over to the alumni section. Wasn't she already in the alumni section? She was already in the alumni section. She had been put there. She had been placed there after that Raw special that they did where she came out with the legends. Remember that? She ended up there. Let's see what everyone in the chat. I want to say hello to Native Star and Critical Sting for joining us in the chat tonight. Good for seeing everyone. It's good to see everyone. Good for seeing everyone as well. Yes, by the way, Kristen is right. I did learn what a draft was this week. I didn't learn what a draft is this week. I learned the finer points. There's some terminology that I don't watch real sports. I like phony sports. I like phony sports like pro wrestling and soccer. So I don't watch drafts. I don't know how the NFL draft or the NHL draft work. They were talking about a big board at some point, and I DM Kristen and said, "What's a big board? What are they talking about? What's this big board? What's a big board?" Everyone's talking about the big board. Tell me what the big board is so that I understand when I see it. That's like, okay, this is the big board. He says, Warren, it's just a big board with all the draft picks on it. I said, well, why don't they just call it the draft board then? Because it's big, because there's a lot of names on it. Yeah, but there could be anything on a big board. Just because the board is big doesn't necessarily mean that there's draft names on it. You could put like a menu on a big board. Like what if you have 5,000 items on your menu? You're going to need a big board. Well, let's look up at the big board. Check out at the big board for today's daily specials kind of thing. People are like, wait, what? Are you telling me that there's eligible football players, college football players on your menu? No. See how confusing this can get? You just need proper terminology. Jason PS3 says the whole Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss situation was bad. Carlos says the free agents are signed. Okay. What was the point then? I don't know. 1001 with Clip says literally all those people talking about the last group, the people who weren't in any pools. They were saying literally he's saying all these, or they saying all these people are away either because of injury or personal stuff. In the case of the Usos, yes. But I mean, Matt Hardy, there's no real reason for it. Sheamus is out with an injury. Naomi, there's no reason for it as well. Lana, neither. Where is the Ascension? Where are the Colognes? And I do understand that Ruby Riott and Mickie James are both injured as well, and they're rehabbing. But where are the Ascension and the Colognes? It doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense because at the same time, you did have injured people who did get drafted. Drew McIntyre is injured. Samoa Joe is injured. Sasha Banks is injured. It's very strange. It feels like we kind of got a peek into who's really in the WWE doghouse. So look, that's the draft. It's some warm soda, but we're gonna let's start talking about something else in regards to WWE here. There we go. Let's start talking some cool beans. How about Bayley's heel turn? Bayley's heel turn. Oh, and Anthony Davis, by the way, points out Jinder as well in the injured list. But Jinder Mahal he's on another plane of existence, right? He's something special because it's not just Jinder Mahal. You guys seem to have forgotten. We haven't had a chance to talk about Jinder for a while because he has been injured. But we must always remember to refer to Jinder as former WWE champion Jinder Mahal. I was reading a little earlier this week about YouTube channel growth. Just these articles. You sort of go on. You do a little research. You look at ways to help out the growth for your YouTube channel. And one of the articles I read suggested that YouTubers who work very well are memeable, who do silly things for memes. So they say wacky things so they can get memed. So maybe I'll try that at some point. Hey, JPQ. No Particular Angle podcast is here. How you doing? So we're cool beans to Bayley's heel turn. Official. Let's ponder this question. Is this the best built heel turn that we've seen in a long time in WWE? Bayley had been delusional leading up to this. She'd been like, I don't know why you hate me. I'm still a role model. Why are people booing me? Why are you coming after me, Carmella? Could this have been just a long or a medium burn, because it wasn't that long, but just played really, really low key to this moment here where she comes out with an axe handle with two like straight razors taped to it and just slaughters the Bayley buddies, and then proceeds to win her match. Proceeds to call everyone bitches and walk out. I thought that was really good. I think it's really, really good. This is how maybe they're going to save. This might be actually the way that they're going to save Bayley's credibility, because Bayley will go down in history as one of the top 3 in all the lists that are going to be created in years and years and years from now. She's going to always be in the top 3 NXT call-ups that were completely bungled once they got to main roster. They didn't know how to handle her. They didn't know what they had. They legitimately had, from NXT, they had the female John Cena on their hands. And then they decided to do these angles where she never kissed a boy. I don't know. This was really, really weird. OF Clip says Bayley's gear is the best. Yes, I like it. Taylor Bird said they had to do it because they screwed her babyface run the whole time. This is true. Their 2018 was completely ruined. And Carlos says Bayley's heel turn was good. How about that for a clean-cut analysis of the situation? And Benoit in the chat says Bayley is now the pissed off, rebellious teenagers that just told her parents to go to hell. We're going to give some more cool beans to, and this might surprise you, the Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar interaction. I thought it was good, and I'm going to tell you why. Because everything was different about this segment. It wasn't the same content that we got from Heyman, from Lesnar. It was all new regarding Brock. Because Brock is clearly in a place where he's afraid of Velasquez. Velasquez clearly is living rent-free in his head. Then they showed... So Brock is showing concern. He's showing aggravation. He doesn't like the fact that Velasquez is there, and he's playing up on it. And plus, on top of that, they showed still images of that fight where Velasquez kicked the shit out of Brock Lesnar. And that's, as WWE fans, that is not something we're used to see. So seeing Brock bleeding, puffed up, the scar, fully understanding the origin of the scar that he has on his cheek, those were all very, very good. It was an interesting depth that they brought to this feud they have going. I really liked it. Something that I didn't like as much, and it's actually going to be hot trash here, is glossing over Kofi Kingston's loss, his title history. They had a match with the OC. They tossed Kofi back in there. He won, but not a mention of his loss to Brock, that he might be in a position eventually to rematch, to get a new shot at his another shot at his title. That he himself doesn't cut a promo where he says, I'm disappointed and I'm going to claw my way back. I know he did one on WWE.com. I know they did one on social media. It's not the same as when it's done on television. This storyline is hanging, no proper payoff. This is I said it, was it last week or the week before? This is showing no consideration to the fans who invested themselves into the storyline. I don't mind that he loses if he loses in a way where we can get closure to a story. We don't have closure to this story. The dots haven't been dotted, the I's haven't been dotted, and the T's haven't been crossed. There we go. So I really, really think they should have done something with this. Tony from the Get the Tables podcast is here. Good to see you, friend. Let's see. John from JPQ says he agrees Kofi's run should have been mentioned. See, I auto-corrected you, John. And Benoit says, I think that Kofi is on the back burner until the moment is right for him to strike. And I concur. That's exactly what they need to do as well. Everyone has their time. But for fans, we just needed some closure here. Let's go back to giving out some cool beans. We can't always be negative all the time here. Let's give some cool beans to the matches on Raw this week. I liked Raw this week. I thought it was a good show because of the matches. We had Ali versus Andrade, which was really good. We had the Viking Raiders defeating Raw Tag Team Champions Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode for the tag team titles. That was great stuff. And we have to give WWE props when they do something right. They were sending out the Viking Raiders week after week, squishity squashing jobbity jobbers right and left, and it ended up building them to the point where the audience legit cares for them. They had a huge reaction when they won. They were entirely behind them. Ivar is one of the best hot tags in the business. He's fantastic. Great match. It was a lot of fun. Cedric versus Buddy as well. Cedric Alexander versus Buddy Murphy. That was really, really amazing. As a 205 Live guy, just seeing these two guys together brought back memories, and it was fantastic. Plus the Kabuki Warriors versus Natalya and Lacey Evans. I'm not going to get into the Natalya Lacey Evans thing because I'm giving them a week's grace here, because Natalya is on Raw and Lacey Evans is on SmackDown. So why are they becoming a tag team all of a sudden? But I'm giving them just this grace period that during the draft it's still a wibbly wobbly warp zone. But as it stands, this was a fun match, and we do have to particularly point out the shit face buster that Lacey Evans drove on Kairi Sane in the middle of the ring. Kairi landed like nose first. That it was extremely sloppy, and Kairi almost got really, really seriously hurt on that one. And then Lacey tosses Kairi into the ropes, and Lacey just, as Kairi is jumping like to hop over Lacey instead, she doesn't duck she just kicks her right in the midsection. And Kairi just folds over and rolls out to the outside of the ring. So Lacey goes after her. Two spectacular botches that definitely hurt Kairi. Well, when Kairi got her out, she just leveled her with a back fist. The stiffest fucking back fist I had seen in a long while. That, folks, was what we call a receipt. Oh my God. Lacey's ears had to be ringing for the rest of the evening after that shot. That was a hardcore. That was a fun match. So some good matches there on Raw. I liked Raw overall. What I didn't like was the contract signing, but that's no surprise to you regular viewers and listeners of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. You know my feelings about contract signings. The minute I hear about a contract signing, I fucking lose it. And just in case you're a new viewer, I hate contract signings because they're boring and because they're lazy. It's lazy creative and it's dull because it's always the same pattern. There will one in a blue moon that will rise above, such as when you give a microphone to Daniel Bryan during a contract signing. That can save a situation, but these moments are very rare. Or when you have Stone Cold Steve Austin in top form, making sure that this is entertaining and not just another series of, here's my microphone, blah, blah, blah. Here's my microphone, blah, blah, blah. I hate them. Tyson Fury, on his defense, he had a good promo. I thought he did good. He put Braun over, calling back to his feats of strength, saying, you know what, I want to fight the guy who's flipping cars and shit like that. I thought it was good. But I mean, it's still a contract signing. And then Braun breaks the table, and then Tyson Fury tries to break a pen. And he can't do it at first or the second time. And he has to do it a third time. At least it wasn't in the main event. If there's anything worse than a contract signing, it's the contract signing as the main event. But then the main event we did end up getting, Jesus Christ. I'm just going to wait a week. I'm just going to wait. But I think WWE is messing up The Fiend. I think they're messing up The Fiend. They didn't have to book The Fiend at Hell in a Cell. They didn't. They hot-shotted it. And they hot-shotted it in a way where they had to give us the goofy finish. But I'm going to wait a week. I just want to see what's going to happen next week. I want to see if this really is a turning point. Because I said this at Hell in a Cell. And I'm going to say it again this week. At Hell in a Cell, there was a double turn that evening. Whether WWE was going for it or not, there was a double turn. The audience turned on Seth Rollins and became pro-Fiend. This is exactly what happened on Monday night as well. And maybe some of you who hang on Twitter had the opportunity to see the dark match footage where the Fiend and Seth got into a fight and then in a DQ. The reactions that the audience gave to Seth. Boos all around. They don't like Seth anymore. Why would we like Seth? For torching clearly the most creative idea that WWE has had in years. Years. Their most compelling little nugget of entertainment. Why would we be pro him going in there and setting everything on fire? They either have to go through with this double turn and turn Seth heel, or Seth is going to become a second Roman Reigns or a second John Cena, where the fans are just going to turn on him. WWE is going to try and push him as a babyface, but the audience is just going to turn on him. I'm going to leave it at that for this week. Because maybe this is the catalyst. Maybe next week we will be getting Seth Rollins being a complete jerk. Remember, he has been pulled from being the captain of Team Hogan. Team Hogan at Crown Jewel. Team Hogan is the babyface team. Suddenly, he's not there anymore. Oh, because he had a title defense. That's bullshit, because he was pulling double duty regardless. I don't know, man. There's something up here. That's why I'm going to give it a reprieve this week. We'll see what happens next week. And then maybe I'll go off on my WWE is ruining the Fiend rant, which I'm just itching to give y'all. But I'm going to give it one more week. That was this week's edition of the WWE Inspection. There we go. Hey guys, remember, if you want to come join me after this stream, I have my exclusive, super secretive chat amongst ourselves stream. It happens on Patreon, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. I'm going to be talking about Marco's stunt tonight and why people should just calm the fuck down. Regards to Marco's stunt. And if this is the first time you're popping on, do consider subscribing to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Or if you're listening to this on your podcast application, a like, a subscribe, a review. All those things are very, very helpful and help out a lot. Richard Storm says, how many weeks in a row are you going to give them another week? We're going on 5 years now. Hang on. I like this. I'm not giving... I don't give them passes. I don't. But there's a nugget here of what happened this week with The Fiend and Seth Rollins that feels like they've given Seth the little heel push. So I'm going to wait till next week and see what happens. I'm ready. I'm ready to unload on they're ruining the Fiend rant. I'm ready. I'm armed and ready. But no, there's a bunch of stuff I don't give them passes on. Week after week. Oh, you're talking about like, oh, okay, I see what you mean, Richard. You're talking about like Bray overall. Yeah, no, that's a whole other rant in and about itself. Bray like being unable to win matches, like always being... always ending up being screwed over in matches. Yeah, no, that has to stop. That shit has to stop. But that's a whole other thing. I'm talking about, like, I'm literally talking about heels and babyface. Anyway. So, I started this last week, setting up some rankings for the shows that I watched during the week. I'm going to let you know which shows that I preferred in order of preference from worst to tippy top. And this is just my opinion, right? These are the ones I enjoyed the most. And folks, feel free to chime in and let me, talk about in a certain form of civility, please. What you preferred as well this week. I watched 7 wrestling programs this week. Let's start with number 7, which is SmackDown. I thought it was rotten again this week. I didn't think it was good. AEW Dark at number 6. It was a big improvement from the week before. Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega was bananas, but it was good overall. Don't get me wrong. I thought SmackDown was definitely not as good, but AEW Dark was not as good as Raw. I thought Raw had many more interesting elements. More good matches. It was a better show. Wasn't perfect though, because NWA Power, it was my 4th favorite show this week. I thought it was really good. Wouldn't exactly say a step down from the week before, but I mean, it's getting so hard to think about what was best between this and that, because once we start getting up into the 4th position, man, it all jumbles together. But I thought the first NWA Power was vastly superior to this one, but it was still a great watch. The main quality about Power is how easy it is to watch. It's such a treasure, a pleasure to watch. So that's one thing. Number 3 was AEW Dynamite. It was a solid show. Once once we got to the tag team to the tag team match of the Lucha Bros versus Jurassic Express, from that point on, I thought the entire show was had momentum. Before that, I was iffy on it. Wasn't all that great. I thought NXT was had a much more solid show and was bookended. This is what NXT does really, really well. It bookends its shows with really fantastic matches, or at least events, because this week the first opening salvo was Tommaso Ciampa returning to the ring and then just sitting in the ring with his crutch, just waiting to beat the shit out of Undisputed Era. And the main event, are you kidding me? Pete Dunne versus Damian Priest was amazing. It was so good. One of my favorite matches this week. Another one of my favorite matches this week was on Dynamite. Actually, Dynamite match of the night was, again, in my opinion, Moxley and Pac versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Those were fantastic matches. But my top show that I saw this week was New Japan Pro Wrestling's King of Pro Wrestling. This, folks, was a fantastic show. If you haven't had the chance to look at it, it is worth every second of you watching it. That's what I'm going to talk about right now, actually. I'm going to talk about King of Pro Wrestling. It's your usual New Japan show where the undercard starts with where the undercard is basically not much. You have your tag team, you have your tag team guys, and everyone is sort of mushed around. And this was the 20th anniversary of Tanahashi's wrestling career, and they just threw him in a tag match with Hanman. I don't know. Well, look, but don't get me wrong. Like, those are literally these are literally to just warm up the crowd. That's all they're for. However, man, Minoru Suzuki defeated Jushin Thunder Liger. From that point on, the entire evening, the entire show just went bananas. Everything was great from that point on. This was a fantastic match between Suzuki and Liger. Great, fantastic storytelling from two older guys, but who created a compelling match, a beautiful match constructed. Suzuki ended up getting the win and gave Liger the big bow at the very end, which I thought was amazing. A beautiful show of respect right there. Will Ospreay defended his IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship by defeating El Fantasmo in one of my favorite matches of the card right there. That was amazing. And I reviewed this card with Anthony Suter of Smart to Death, and Anthony has he sweats bullets when he starts thinking about Will Ospreay. And I like Will Ospreay, but not as much as other people do. And this is probably one of my favorite Ospreay matches that I had seen in a while, because Ospreay is a guy who hits a lot of offense in sequences. And these sequences generally don't vary much. They're pretty much straightforward, and you see them coming. You know what, we're transitioning from this to this to this. But here you felt like Phantasmo had his number, and Ospreay had to mix his offense around if he wanted to get the win here. And he did. He pulled out stuff a bit out of nowhere, didn't go through his usual rigmarole in many, many circumstances. I liked it. Felt like Ospreay was mixing it up here. Loved this match. There was a great six-man tag between Chaos Faction. The Chaos Faction made up of Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, my man, and Yoshihashi. They defeated the Bullet Club members Jay White, Kenta, and Yujiro Takahashi, the Tokyo Pimp. And what I liked here were the stories that were established here. Because you had Tomohiro Ishii and Kenta getting all up in each other's faces. And this is important because now we're technically on the road. We are officially on the road to Wrestle Kingdom when it comes to New Japan. So it was really, really interesting Well, actually, it's really important at this point for the New Japan folks to get these storylines going, to get this to get it moving forward. So I really like this. They established Kenta and Ishii as a potential match for Wrestle Kingdom, and they continued down the Goto Jay White feud as well, which I think they're going to pull the trigger on this one before Wrestle Kingdom. Quite unfortunately, I would have loved Jay White to have ducked Goto the entire way leading into Wrestle Kingdom, and then get to Wrestle Kingdom, Goto gets his big win. I would have loved that. I don't know if you heard, there was a really big tsunami or a typhoon. I don't remember. There was a big storm in Japan and earthquakes, and it was a mess. So Jon Moxley was unable to fly in on time to have his match against Juice Robinson at New Japan at King of Pro Wrestling, and he basically he ended up not wrestling. He ended up being stripped of his title, of the U.S. title. So the U.S. title was put up for grabs in a no disqualification match between Juice Robinson and Lance Archer, who defeated Juice Robinson in a super fun brawl. A fun, violent, super violent toys match. That was my speed. I'm not big on the toys matches, or because oftentimes, not that I'm against hardcore wrestling. I enjoy hardcore wrestling, but it's not a question of excuse me. It's not a question of our folks. It's not a question of them using foreign objects to hit each other. That I don't mind. That I'm okay with that. What I have a problem with is when they pull them out too early, or they depend too much on them. Here was very, very well balanced, and my God, when they started pulling out the chairs and everything, and Lance Archer just ramming Juice Robinson's head over and over and over again on the chairs, on the pile of chairs that they had. It was sick. It was fantastic. Lance Archer, what a year he's had. What an absolutely phenomenal year. Best thing that ever happened to him was Davey Boy Smith leaving New Japan. That was so, so good. And it was a typhoon. Thank you, Carlos, for checking it out for me. Thank you. Kota Ibushi defeated Evil in a singles match for the Tokyo Dome IWGP Heavyweight Championship Challenge Rights Certificate, because Kota Ibushi won it after the G1. Evil challenged him for it. This was a fun match. It was a lot better than I expected. Good clash of styles, but and Kota Ibushi, man, he's something else. Evil was really, really good too. I think he brought his best. He put his best foot forward. Just wasn't able to make it happen. Not that we were really expecting it. That's the thing, that the top two matches here, the endings were telegraphed, but the matches are so good. And because we all knew Okada was going to defeat Sonata here, there was no way Sonata was going to pull off this huge upset leading into Wrestle Kingdom. Okada's the draw. Okada's the man. This was such a good wrestling match, and what's fantastic here is that they're continuously building on the history that they have with each other. And I mentioned this as well on the Smart to Death podcast. I'm going to mention it again. The strength in New Japan storytelling is commentary, and it's the history. Unlike other promotions that will remain nameless, New Japan doesn't shy away from its history. It doesn't whitewash it. It doesn't twist it around. It uses the facts. It uses the actual history, the match results, and what happened within those matches as well, as fuel to tell in-ring stories. They don't need a ton of artifice. They just have to tell us. Sonata is 7-1 against Kazuchika Okada, and he's trying to come over that hump. He has elevated himself to the point where he doesn't feel like he's going to go 8-1, but yet there we go. He did. He did go 8-1. And those are great stories. It's exactly the kind of story that they were telling with Omega and Okada. It was the exact same thing. It's the exact type of story where it's very long, drawn out, but you always call back to the history, and the history is there because commentary is helping putting it over. The wrestlers are talking about it. They do callbacks to previous matches. And we're getting this deep, rich history between Okada and Sanada. Sanada has elevated his game something fierce. It is such a good match. One of my favorite matches of the week. One of my matches of the year. This was amazing stuff. You have to go out of your way to watch King of Pro Wrestling, especially once you hit the Suzuki Liger match. From that point on, you are in for a treat. You like your wrestling? There's a lot of it, I know. But you can take a breather and watch this. It'll be a good palate cleanser for a bunch of other stuff. Caleb asked me a question. Why did you add King of Pro Wrestling when the rest of our weekly shows and King of Pro Wrestling happens once a year? I just look, this is just informal. You know, I don't expect people to follow everything I say down to a T. And it's like, oh, Warren loved this. I watch wrestling shows, and every week, I'm going to rank the wrestling shows I like. When we had Hell in a Cell, Hell in a Cell was on my list. So it's a wrestling show. So sure, it'll pop up. Pay-per-views and cards like that will pop up. I just want to give an appreciation of the shows that I watched during the week. And there you go. If just it's not an app. I don't want to get in. It's nothing scientific. I'm going to try and and break down. This is my scale, and no. It's just like, hey, this is what I enjoyed this week. King of Pro Wrestling was really good. Real quickly, you're very welcome, Caleb. Just very quickly on the Stardom stuff. I don't want to. I feel like there's a lot of I want to see how things turn out before I really get deep into everything that's going on with Stardom. But you've probably heard by now that Bushido Road, the company that owns New Japan, through one of its subsidiaries, Kix Road, K-I-X, Kix Road, which I think they should have given another cereal name to. I don't know what you guys in the chat think. Kix. Should have been another type of cereal. But anyway, the Ladies of Stardom, well, the whole thing has been bought by Bushido Road. So the parent company, through one of its subsidiaries, purchased Stardom. So no, this is not New Japan buying itself a women's division. So all of you know who you are. You can all chill the fuck out. The men and the women are going to be right in this. They're going to be in their own. Everything's going to be in the right place. Don't worry. But they are going to, Bushido Road wants to invest into Stardom more to really develop it into a global brand, which I think is good. They want to offer contracts like full-time contracts to the women, because this is something that I had learned that I didn't know, that there were no full-time players in Stardom. So that's something that they will be getting. So there's going to be an influx of money. There's going to be investments that are going to be made. I'm excited to see how this happens. Stardom World is going to stay exactly how it is. It's not going to be called, and it's just going to be called Stardom from this point on, not World Women's Wrestling Magic Crazy Women Wrestling Ring World Stardom. So we'll see how this goes on. But to me, there's only one thing that to me is important. The only essential, crucial thing that has to come out of the Stardom purchase is that the women all get taken care of, better taken care of. Throughout these reports, we found out that Stardom makes $2 million in revenue a year. $2 million in revenue. That's not a lot when you have a roster that is filled with 28 wrestlers. Like, if you were just going to take the 2 million and separate it between the 28 women, that would, as their salary, that'd give them like almost $75,000 a year. That's not a lot. That is not a lot. And you know that's not it. That's not the exact that's not how they split. That's not how they split it up, because there's expensive. There's expenses. There's staff salaries. Look, that it's not just going directly into the hands of the talent. You know that. So to me, these women need to get proper compensation. Plus, they'll probably end up in an environment where they will be respected and treated as professionals, as wrestlers, as opposed to models, or anyway. Because there have been situations, rumors that have been circulating regarding the treatment of women in Stardom, and it hasn't always been joyous, hasn't always been cool. You'd think that a women's only promotion would know how to take care of their women. That's not always the case. Not in Stardom, not with the stories that run around on occasion. So if they end up in this if they end up in another, did someone just I think someone just tipped me. Yeah, Richard Storm, thank you very much. Thank you, Richard, for the tip. I had forgotten about the sound, and it startled me. Thank you very much for the tip, though. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. But basically that's it. Hopefully the women are well taken care of, and if they're in an environment where they feel much more secure and protected, well, that's good stuff. And I appreciate that they do that. But we'll see what happens moving forward. There's people that, hey, there's 2 nights of New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom. Why not put a Stardom match there? Look, I'm not getting into that. I am not interested in getting death threats on Twitter by certain levels of the fandom, of the Stardom fandom. And besides, I want to talk about something else. Just before we wrap it up, I want to talk about the women's division in AEW. Joe Cook, how you doing? You may be late, Joe Cook, but you're arriving. You're arriving at a good moment. We're going to talk about women, the women of AEW. Kristen Ashley earlier I think it was yesterday, after yesterday's episode of AEW Dynamite, she put together some stats, like she does. I like to call her Kristen Statsley when we're talking on the phone, and saying, being all cuddly with each other. Like, hey, Statsley, why don't you lay a long division on me? Anywho, Kristen put out a tweet saying in 3 interesting stat here regarding AEW Dynamite and the women's matches. In AEW Dynamite episodes, 3 out of 16 matches were women's matches, which equates to 18.75% of matches being women's matches. In 2 AEW Dark episodes, 1 out of 7 matches were women's matches, so that's 14.29%. And in total, 4 out of 23 matches were women's matches. Then that comes down to 17.39%. So that's not a lot. And AEW are not giving the women's division the prominence that a lot of people were expecting from them. And I think it was it is a fair expectation to have in regards to AEW's women division, because their slogan, their motto is the Elite's motto, which is change the world. We want to do things differently. And this is something that they have harped on from the very first press conference they had, where they brought out Britt Baker. No, not Britt Baker. The second press conference where they brought out Kylie Ray, where they brought out Nyla Rose. They said, we're going to do things differently. Well, it doesn't feel very different to WWE at the very least. I don't know what the situation is right now. Like, I don't quite understand. Our boys and girls in the management of AEW made a sound choice making Riho their first women's champion, because Riho is fantastic. And I may be a little tired of hearing, oh, she's so tiny, she weighs 98 pounds. She's fantastic, and I think I was a little surprised when she won, but it turns out I think it was the good choice. And the reason why I think it was the good choice is because I think that their other choices, or the other women that they decided to put in prominence, I think some of them aren't quite ready to be in the position AEW wants them to be in. I'm talking specifically about Nyla Rose and specifically about Britt Baker. I want to preface this by saying that I do not think that either wrestler is bad. I don't think they suck. I think that they are, well, in the case of Nyla Rose, I think she's very green still. And I think she needs a lot of training. I think Britt Baker lacks polish, but she is definitely not bad. And we talked about this on Fightful last night, talking about the Riho and Britt Baker match. Britt has naturals when it comes to wrestling. She understands things about how a wrestling match is supposed to work. Because someone who is a complete dunce when it comes to wrestling will not lower her center of gravity when the other wrestler is trying to lift her. She won't lower her center of gravity to block the lift. And that's what she was doing. Britt. She lowers her center of gravity when Rio was trying to lift her, completely blocked. It's not much. It's just a little detail, but it shows that she has an understanding of what she's doing. She hasn't had the opportunity of other women had to train in a performance center for the better part of a year to really hone her skills. As everyone knows, because Jesus Christ, they're ramming it over the top of her head. She's a dentist. She's been training to be a dentist. So, of course, she's splitting her time between her studies and wrestling, and I understand that. I like Britt Baker, and I think that she and B. Priestley can have a fantastic match. I really do. But I don't think Britt is ready to be put in a lofty position. She can't carry a division right now. She's charismatic. She has natural. She's good, but she's not there yet. I see a lot of Lacey Evans. A lot of ways to compare her to Lacey Evans. Whereas Lacey Evans is she's very sloppy with her moves. I think Britt is not a question of sloppiness. She just has... she's rough. She's just a little rough. Now, in the meantime, they're sitting on a bunch of women, AEW are, that they haven't even put on television or barely put on television yet. You guys remember, right? They signed Sadie Gibbs. And Sadie Gibbs might be in the same position as Britt. Britt has been wrestling for 4 years, and I think Sadie's been wrestling for 3. But Sadie's committed full time to this, and she has been training. She's fantastic. If you look at her indie work, She is impeccable. She is amazing. There's a reason why she was picked up, but there's no reason why they shouldn't be using her right now. You have Bea Priestley, who is, of course, she's committed to Stardom as well. She's the big red belt. She's the holder of the big red belt. You have this is who they have here as well. They have Penelope Ford, who we saw once on television, at least since Dynamite started. She's been in a dark match and wasn't very good. None of the women in the match were very, very good. It wasn't a good match. But Penelope Ford is another woman who on the indies tore it up. Why aren't they letting her do her thing here? And then they have Yuka Sakazaki, who's really good. Leva Bates, who's fine. She's okay. But it's just weird that they're sitting on and Ali's fantastic. These are women that should be put to the forefront, or at least be wrestling. They should be wrestling more with some of the greener elements. And I'm kind of thinking, and I'm wondering if AEW just isn't realizing that right now their talent pool is very, very junior. You don't have really solid veterans in the division. And sometimes you do need an experienced hand to help guide the younger ones, the less experienced talent into something better. Which is one of the reasons, aside from the fact that I'm a fan, it's one of the reasons why I was excited when Mercedes Martinez came out as the Joker at the Casino Battle Royal at All Out. I was like, is she signed? Are they bringing her on board? Because Mercedes Martinez is a ring general. She is amazing. She could teach so much to these women on a daily basis. You could build a division around this woman and have her naturally become a locker room leader for the women, for sure. And they would look up to her. They'd turn to her for advice. She's fantastic. But no, they didn't sign her. There's a bunch of weird things that happened. A bunch of strange decisions that were made. People that were there at All Out that they decided not to give a spot. You had Shaza McKenzie, who was there, who is phenomenal and who had a great showing in the Battle Royal as well. She's back in Australia, and she's tweeting out that the Australian scene is the pits. She can't get work over the weekends. Nicole Savoy, for fuck's sake, one of the stalwarts of the British wrestling division, British wrestling scene, indie scene. She's fantastic. Ivelisse was there. Ivelisse has tons of experience. They even hyped her. They hyped her presence at the Battle Royal. They didn't sign her. You'll argue, oh, they didn't sign Teal Piper either. I don't know what Teal Piper is able to do in the ring. We didn't see it at the Battle Royal. I don't know what she's about, but not much happening there. They had Tennille Dashwood was there. Tennille is another old hand who you could center the division around. Could you imagine just having Tennille Dashwood and Mercedes Martinez as your veteran stalwarts to just push everyone else forward? That's what's lacking right now in the division as far as the AEW women's division goes right now. They're just lacking a level of depth that will be able to elevate everyone to a higher standard. Priscilla Kelly was in the Battle Royal. She wasn't invited back. It was weird. It was really, really strange. And I kind of felt like this is what they wanted to do with the Battle Royal that they did at All Out, where they had all these indie stars at All In, when they had all these indie stars come over and everyone was freaking out to having all these indie stars in one same place. But now AEW is no longer, it's no longer Cody and the Bucks and Ring of Honor putting an indie super show together. Now they have a brand, they have a company, they have something that they need to build. And just inviting all these fantastic women, available women, unsigned women from the independent circuit, just inviting them into their battle royal just to get some buzz and not doing anything with them after is stupid. I just remembered Jazz, former NWA champion Jazz, was in there as well. And they didn't keep her either. If there's someone you should get your hand on to be a coach, I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. And I feel right now that the women's division in AEW is a problem. And I don't think that as it stands in the current state it's in right now, I don't think that there's anything really exciting about it. I think they need to they need to freshen it up. They need to mix things around. And maybe they did have plans for Britt, but maybe they should move someone else up there instead. I think they need real locker room leaders for the women's division that can elevate everyone else. I think it's essential and it's lacking, and I think it shows. But mostly, first and foremost, and you can have as many locker room leaders in the back as you want. But if you don't put your women on television, if you don't give them moments to shine, they're not going to improve, they're not going to get better, and most importantly, the audience is not going to get behind them. And that's crucial. We have these discussions oftentimes online where people say, just give it time, give it time. Why would we give it time? We didn't give it time for the men's division to develop. It's just like, okay, let's just drop all the dudes in there. And it's not a question of absolutely being 100% equal or 50-50 all the time. But there is definitely room on AEW for more women's matches, for not even more women's matches, for a bigger women's presence. AEW said they wanted to do things differently. They wanted to change the world. Well, right now, they're just playing everyone else's game. And I'm not impressed. The talent is one thing. That can be fixed. Proper hires, coaches, that's something creative. That's something you can align. But in all the messaging that they had been putting forward, to have ended up where we are today, where 17% of the matches that have been booked on AEW were women's matches, doesn't feel too different to me. I only hope it gets better. Let's see. Benoit in the chat says Vanessa Craven would be interesting in AEW. Yes, she would. She's injured right now, though. But Vanessa is very, very, very good. Jason PS3 does point out, truthfully, Maria Maniac is free, and this is a story in and it's about itself. She was brought in earlier this year, like March, April, something like that. She was brought into Ring of Honor, got really, really excited. Ring of Honor did not put her on TV. They put her on TV. She did some run-ins, but she did not wrestle a single match on Ring of Honor. And then they forget to renew her contract, like in the recently, and now she's a free agent. She's actually had a tryout at the Performance Center, at the WWE Performance Center. It's so stupid. It's such a Ring of Honor thing to do. It's like, oh, Where's Maria? Oh, she's having a tryout at the Performance Center. How come? Oh, well, we forgot to roll over her contract. Fuck. Sip. Benoit says Impact has one of the strongest women's divisions. Tessa, Jordan, etc. I'd say Impact has the strongest women's division. As far as North American companies go, the strongest, the best booked. NXT doesn't do as good a job as they do. WWE definitely does not. Impact knows how to book women's matches. They know how to book their women, and their women are talented. They're very, very, very good. Carlos says, it's an issue of time. Where do you put women's without sacrificing current storylines? Sacrificing what storylines? And why can't the women have their own storylines? What are you sacrificing? There's nothing to sacrifice. You're just giving storylines to other wrestlers. I know we're trained to talk about divisions because there's such a clear line that's drawn, where intergender wrestling is still very much a dirty word in like 90% of major wrestling promotions and so on and so forth. So clearly it's like, well, it's either the men or the women, but it's not that clear a choice. It doesn't have to be that choice. You can say, well, it's going to be the men and the women. And a storyline is a storyline, and I don't care if it's a woman, if it's a women's storyline or a men's storyline. Give me compelling wrestlers with good storylines. That can go, and I'll be okay with it. I'll enjoy it. It's just that simple. So it's funny because by reflex we always have this impression that if we give the women more time, we're chopping away at the men. But if you are going to go down the equality route, this shouldn't even be a question for your company. It's not a question of we're taking time away from the men, is we're giving everyone a chance. And if you want to create two divisions, just like you have a tag team division as well, let's say, well, you work it out so that everyone has equal time. Or you just say, like in Chikara, to hell with divisions, everyone fights everyone. Just that simple. Well, there you have it, folks. I think we're going to wrap it up here on that one. And by the way, Carlos, it was a great question. I love you. You're a good friend of the show. I really do. I like Carlos. Hope everyone should follow Carlos on Twitter. Carlos, you're allowed to put your Twitter handle in the chat. You're allowed. I want to thank everyone for tuning out. Yes, I want to thank everyone for tuning out during my rants and just hanging around and giving me the impression that people are actually listening to what I'm saying. Thank you so much. So this is a good show, good bunch of folks again in the chat tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for coming over here every Thursday evening, deciding to spend some time with me, listening to me talk about wrestling. It still blows my mind. I'm privileged that you guys decide to do this or to listen on whenever occasion you can on your podcast device or on YouTube or whatever. But podcast device, yeah. Podcast application. That's all fantastic. I really do appreciate it. Your support means the world to me. And next week is going to be interesting because, like I said, I am going to be in Wisconsin, but I'm not postponing anything. So you might not have Dustin Runnels here flexing his biceps at you. You might not have the Irish flag or my Godzilla or my I'm drawing a blank on my Batman there in the back. We'll see what kind of backgrounds we get here, but I will be around next week. Don't you guys and gals worry. The Mr. Warren Hayes show it travels. It's lightweight. It's compact. I can do it from anywhere. It'll be fantastic. I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. Thank you all so very, very much, and I will see you next time.